Good day, everyone. Welcome in physical science. Before we start, we'll be having a pretest. So, true or false, read each item or statement carefully. Identify whether the statement is true or false. Write your answer on a separate sheet of paper. Number one, carbohydrates contain carbon. The answer is true. Two, meat contains protein. The answer is true. 3. Lipids are soluble in water. The answer is false. 4. Proteins are made up of nucleotides. The answer is false. 5. DNA is a nucleic acid. So the answer is true. 6. Sucrose is a disaccharide. The answer is true. 7. Starch is composed of many glucose units. The answer is true. 8. Fructose is also known as blood sugar. The answer is false. 9. Keratin is easily dissolved in water. The answer is false. 10. Proteins are made up of nucleotides. The answer is false. 11. The hemi group of hemoglobin contains iron. The answer is true. 12. A nucleotide has three parts: nitrogenous base, sugar, and phosphate group. The answer is true. 13. DNA has a double helix structure. So the answer is true. 14. Triglyceride is a protein. The answer is false. 15. Generally, unsaturated fatty acids remain solid and room temperature. So the answer is false. Now, the topic that we're going to discuss today is biological macromolecules. For our objectives, 1. Distinguish between carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids. 2. Summarize the general characteristics of each biomolecule. 3. Relate the structures of the biomolecules with their properties. Biological macromolecules are large organic molecules such as carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. Most of them are organic compounds, and the functional group determines their chemical properties. Biomolecules have a huge variety of functions such as energy storage, protection, and etc. Now be ready with your journey to the different biomolecules, their structures and functions found in your body. Now, before we start, we'll be having an activity. So, food is a source of molecules that are needed for life. These are biological molecules. What you eat contains biomolecules. There are four biological molecules that make up all of life. Now, I have here a word hunt for your warm up. So, look for the following. So, okay, so the answer is nucleic acid, lipid, carbohydrate, and protein. That's great. You are really doing great. It seems that you are now ready for our first biomolecule. For our activity, so we'll be having here macromolecule plates in glass. So one, write inside the first plate an example of food rich in carbohydrates that you have eaten a while ago and tell us what you feel after eating it. So then what did you feel after eating the food rich in carbohydrates? Number two, write inside the second plate an example of food rich in lipids that you have eaten a while ago. So, what did you feel after eating the food rich in lipids? Three, write inside the third plate an example of food rich in protein that you have eaten a while ago and tell us what you feel about what you have eaten. What did you feel after eating the protein or rich food? Four, write inside the glass the function of nucleic acids. So terms and definitions. So monosaccharide, the simplest form of carbohydrates monomer, a molecule that can react with other molecule to form very large molecules or polymer. Peptide, short chain of amino acid monomer linked by peptide bonds. Hormones, special chemical messengers that are created by the endocrine gland. Amino acids, organic compounds that combine to form proteins. Enzymes, proteins which make the biochemical reaction occurs in faster rate. Nucleotide, composed of three components: nitrogen containing base, carbon sugar, and a phosphate group. Phospholipids contain glycerol, two fatty acids, and a phosphate groups. So biological macromolecules, number one is the carbohydrates. The word carbohydrate may be broken down to carbon and hydrate, and this is due to the fact that most carbohydrates follow the formula CN, then H2O, then N. Another term for carbohydrates is saccharide. Carbohydrates are classified either as simple or complex. Simple sugars are monosaccharide and disaccharides. Complex sugars are polysaccharides. Carbohydrates are the primary source of energy in the human body. The different saccharides that humans eat are converted to glucose, which can be readily used by the body. So the excess carbohydrates taken into the body is converted to glycogen that is stored in the liver and in muscles. So the monosaccharide or one saccharide, so we have the glucose, galactose, and fructose. So we have first the glucose. It is used in dextrose blood sugar, the form utilized by the human body. For the galactose, it's found in milk and milk products. For the fructose, it's found in fruits and honey. While the disaccharides, we have two saccharides, so maltose, sucrose, and lactose. So we have the maltose, so this is the glucose plus glucose, so it's found in malt. Sucrose is a glucose plus fructose found in regular table sugar, sugar cane, and a sugar beet. The lactose, this is the glucose plus galactose found in milk and milk products. The polysaccharides or many saccharides, like for example the starch or the amylose, this is storage form of glucose in plants. Next one is the amylopectin, so storage form of glucose in plants, and the glycogen, storage form of glucose from the animals, storage in the liver and the muscles. The cellulose, this is structure material in plant cell wall in wood. Wood fiber cannot be digested by humans. Another one is the carbohydrates. They are made from carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So monomer, or this the saccharides, examples the rice, cereal, potatoes, fruits, pastas. Function is the main energy source of the body. Did you know that marathon runners, triathletes, and other runners consume carbohydrates for weeks leading up to a big event? They call it carbo loading. What's the point? The athletes consume massive amounts of starch and pasta. The energy begins to store up in their energy, saving itself for use during the event. Lipids are fats. So lipids or fats are more important nutrients in your body, but eating too much unhealthy fats, such as saturated fats and trans fats, can lead to heart disease and obesity. Lipids also serves other functions such as material for cell membrane insulation to maintain body temperature, aid in digestion, and as signal molecules. There are different common classifications of lipids: triglyceride, phospholipid, OX, and steroid. The lipid family is one of the most varied in terms of structure, but they share the common property being insoluble in water. Fat and oil are most common examples of lipids. They are under triglycerides because they are composed of glycerol and three fatty acids. Fat refers to the solid triglyceride, usually from the animal source such as meat, milk, butter, margarine, eggs, and cheese. Oil refers to liquid triglycerides from plant source. Example are the olive oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, and soybean. Animal fats contain high percentages of saturated fatty acids, while plant oils are most unsaturated fatty acids. The lipids, they are made from carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So they are soluble or dissolved in oil, but are insoluble or don't dissolve in water. Examples, fats and oils. So function, long-term storage of energy in the body. Monomer is the fatty acid. Proteins are composed of four elements, namely carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. Sulfur is sometimes also found in proteins. If carbohydrates are made up of saccharides, proteins are made up of amino acids. Examples of proteins and their functions are keratin is a structured protein found in hair, skin, and nail. Fibrion or silk protein, the fibrion is found in silk. Silk has a smooth and soft texture. It is one of the strongest natural fibers that have high resistance to deformation. It is also a good insulating material. Collagen is a major insoluble fibrous protein found in connective tissues such as tendons, ligaments, skin, cartilage, and the cornea of the eye. It comprises as much as 30% of proteins in animals. Enzymes functions to catalyze chemical reactions. They either speed up a reaction, lower the needed energy for a reaction to take place, or bind substances to their specific partners. Example of enzymes: lipase help in the digestion of fats. Pepsin help in breaking down proteins into peptides or the small units. Sucrase, also called invertase, help in the digestion of sugars and starches. Myoglobin is a polypeptide that stores oxygen in muscles. It contains heme group, which has an ion where the oxygen is stored. Proteins, they are made from carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sometimes sulfur. Proteins are made up of amino acids combined through a dehydration link called a peptide bond. Monomer is the amino acid. Nucleic acids play an essential role in the storage of transfer and expressions of genetic information. Nucleic acid was discovered by a 24-year-old Swiss physician named Friedrich Mischer in 1868, and he was puzzled that an unknown substance in white blood cells did not resemble carbohydrates, proteins, or lipids. He was able to isolate the substance from the nucleus and initially called it nuclein. He eventually was able to break down nuclein into protein and nucleic acids. He found out that the nucleic acids contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, and phosphorus. The most examples of nucleic acids are DNA or the deoxyribonucleic acids and the RNA or the ribonucleic acid. DNA is a nucleic acid that carries the genetic code of organisms. It is fondly termed as the blueprint of life. So RNA, on the other hand, carries the information from the DNA to the cellular factories where the synthesis of proteins called ribosomes. If the carbohydrates are composed of saccharide units and proteins of amino acids, nucleic acids are composed of nucleotides. Nucleic acids are also known as polynucleotides. Three parts of nucleotide: nitrogenous base, 5 carbon carbohydrate or sugar phosphate group. Nucleic acids, they are made from the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and the monomers nucleotide. For example, DNA and RNA function. DNA carries the genetic code of the organism, while RNA carries information from the DNA to ribosomes to produce proteins. Structures of different biomolecules. Remember this uh, mnemonic device of biomolecules. So you have CHO, CHO, CHON, CHONP. C stands for the element carbon, N stands for the element nitrogen, H stands for the element hydrogen, P stands for the element phosphorus, and O stands for the element oxygen. So here are the four. So we have carbohydrates, the lipids, the proteins, and the nucleic acids. Okay, and their structural formula. Again, say the mnemonic device: CHO, CHO, CHON, CHONP. For our activity, So, meal plan. Think of a 3-day healthy meal plan for a teenager like you, following the table below. So, make sure that you choose the right kind of food containing carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. So, we have day one, day two, and day three. And you're going to plan breakfast, morning snack, lunch, afternoon snack, dinner, and dessert. For the activity 1.3, the maze runner. So I have a friend named Bimol. He needs our help in finding the right way to go back to his house. In order to help him, you need to answer some questions about biomolecules. Hello, my name is Bimol. I have a problem. I cannot go back home. Please help me by answering the questions. So we have the carbohydrates, the proteins, the lipids, and the nucleic acids. And Bimol said, thanks for helping him. So for activity 1.4 amazing launch, now you already know the different biomolecules. So oops, I heard something in your stomach. Since you did great, I have a reward for you. Help me to prepare your lunch by encircling the words related opposite to each biomolecule on the left side. So this is the biomolecules, and of course you are going to choose, okay, here. Complete the table filling out the required information to identify the disorder or disease-related micromolecule and its function based on the given scenario. Number one, Cuvida, a grade 12 student, experienced excessive sweating, frequent urination, feeling very thirsty and hungry. She was not able to attend her class. During that day, she was rushed in the hospital, and upon examining her body sugar, it was found out that it is above its normal value. Two, one of the students of Mr. Corona shared her story when she was hospitalized at the age of 3. She showed her picture with enlarged tummy, loss of muscles, mass and inflamed patches on her skin. She even mentioned that she was also irritable and had failure to grow in height, according to her mother. So three, while presenting the lesson on the circulation and gas exchange, the teacher of Pandemic Integrated National High School complains of shortness of breath, tightness, and aching sensation in his chest. So that radiates to his neck and jaw. So this is the disorders. This is the related macromolecules and the functions of macromolecules. Now for the assessment, so multiple choice, choose the letter of the best answer and write the chosen letter on a separate sheet of paper. Number one, which of group of biomolecules carries and passes on the hereditary informations of the organism? A. Carbohydrates, B. Lipids, C. Nucleic acids, D. Proteins. 2. Which biomolecules are significant components of cell membrane? A. Carbohydrate and nucleic acid, B. Lipid and nucleic acid, C. Nucleic acid and protein, D. Protein and lipid. 3. What are the elements that made up carbohydrates? A. Carbon and hydrogen, B. Carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen, C. Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, D. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. 4. Which organic molecules is soluble in water and serves as quick source of energy? A. Carbohydrates, B. Lipids, C. Nucleic acids, D. Proteins. 5. In which group of biomolecule do waxes decode some organisms belongs? A. Carbohydrates, B. Lipids, C. Nucleic acids, D. Proteins. 6. Which of the following is not a lipid? A. Hemoglobin, B. Fat, C. Steroid, D. Triglyceride. 7. Which of the following is considered as building block of proteins? A. Amino acid, B. Nucleic acid, C. Nucleotides, D. Polypeptides. 8. Which of the following is the storage form of excess glucose in the body, particularly in the liver and muscle? A. Creatinine, B. Glycogen, C. Hemoglobin, D. Uric acid. 9. Which of the following is a monosaccharide found in dextrose? A. Fructose, B. Galactose, C. Glucose, D. Lactose. 10. Which is example of saturated fat? A. Butter, B. Corn oil, C. Olive oil, D. Sunflower oil. 11. Which is termed as the blueprint of life? A. Deoxyribonucleic acid, B. Fatty acid, C. Nucleic acid, D. Ribonucleic acid. 12. Proteins are mainly composed of four elements, namely carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and what other element? A. Magnesium, B. Nitrogen, C. Phosphorus, D. Sodium. 13. Which of the following is a major insoluble fibrous protein found in the connective tissues such as tendons, ligaments, skin, cartilage, and the cornea of the eye? A. Albumin. B. Collagen. C. Keratin. D. Pepsin. 14. Which polypeptide carries oxygen in muscles? A. Enzyme. B. Hemi. C. Lipase. D. Myoglobin. 15. Which is not a part of nucleotide? A. Nitrogenous base. B. Phosphate group. C. Ribonucleic acid. D. Sugar. Now for the answer. 1 is C, 2D, 3C, 4A, 5B, 6A, 7A, 8B, 9C, 10A, 11A, 12B, 13B, 14D, and 15C. Now for your additional activities, biomolecule poem. Summarize the topics and creatively translate them into a poem describing what you have learned about biomolecules. Write your answer on a separate answer sheet. Uh, that's all for today, and thank you for listening.